So the researcher in the positivist paradigm is very technical. They're looking for causality, right? Cause and effect. If I do this, this happens. Next time I can predict it, okay? And they're very focused on generalizability, right? So I have figured out how this phenomenon works. When you do this, this happens. I can predict that when you do this, this will happen. I can say every single time on the face of this planet, when you do this, this happens. So generalizability is very, very important to the positivist researcher. Okay. Whereas the interpretive researcher is looking for, is focused on things being practical. Does it make sense in this context? Can I understand how this works in this context? Very practical oriented. And they like to find meaning within a certain context, okay? Oh, I'll say this on the next slide. I'll save it. And then the critical paradigm, the researcher, critical researcher, is all about emancipation, free the people, right? Build them up. And they like to problematize things. Why is it that when I walk in this classroom, we have 3 rows of tables over here and 4 rows of tables over here? Why is that? The man is trying to push us down. Clearly. Yeah, so that's what problematizing is. I hate that word, but that's what it is. It really is like, okay, this is the status quo, this is how it's done, but I'm going to have an issue with it. Okay, that is to problematize. That is a critical researcher's focus. And it's not always because they want to cause a ruckus, but it is because they want to expose assumptions. Like, have you ever thought about why you arranged the classroom this way? Right? I'm not saying it's good or bad, we can do some research and find out, but have you really thought about why is the classroom arranged this way? I'm going to problematize this situation. Let's think about this. Let's figure out what the best configuration would be. Let's figure out how this configuration is disenfranchising some of our students.
I know a lot of problematizers.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that.
Is that, can I ask a question? Does that say context bound?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the context for my little thing that I just came up with this classroom, you know, I'm only concerned with this classroom. That's my context, right? I'm gonna worry about the classroom down there next year after we get this one fixed. Okay, so that's the context bound component of the critical researcher. So very different, very different in how they focus and what they believe their role is in research and that kind of thing. Yeah, tell me.
No, I just had a light bulb on.
Any other thoughts?
I think the feminist approach to research, that article,
Uh-huh.
is a statement like, be critical and emancipatory, and I found it was like very profound, very true.
So does that was it, you said feminist critical, that speaks to you?
Yeah, like, you know, like talking about all the performance problems or like whatever problems, whatever we want to do research, try to bring both a critical lens and an emancipatory lens.
Yeah.
That emancipatory lens is not there.
Was that Biermann? I can't remember who wrote that. Do you remember?
Probably Biermann.
It sounds like her. That's why I said that. I can't remember who wrote that. Yep, it's her.
So when I started reading the article, I initially thought what it is going to be talking about. But then, you know, like it just says the word feminism is over there. But then when you dig inside, then you find this lens which she's actually.
Yes. And she is a front runner when it comes to critical feminist paradigm. She really is. She's been doing that 20-something years. That's her thing. I will say that when I went to the conference as a student in 2009, prior to that, so let's say 2008, I don't know, when I learned about, it would have been 2007 when I learned this stuff in class. And the critical paradigm did not appeal to me in any way. in any way whatsoever, because I'm an engineer. I was so chilling out in the positivist paradigm, right? Huh? Where, you know, the answer is the answer. That was me. That's why I was an engineer, is because the answer is the answer. Last night, helping my 5th grader with her homework, and I used algebra and she used logic, and we got the same answer. She was like, that's because the answer is always the right answer. Yes. Yes.
That makes sense if you study math.
Huh?
I said, well, that makes sense if you study math.
Well, right, but that's what drew me to math, is that it was always the right answer. Anyway, so that's how I live my life. Answer is the answer. So you come up, I'm, 30 years old, you come up here with the critical paradigm, and I'm like, not appealing. Interpretive, not appealing. The critical paradigm bothered me. Interpretive, I'm like, sure, people like to ask questions. But critical bothered me because I originally saw it as kind of like the man's trying to keep me down type thing. And I don't like victim mentality in any shape, form, or fashion. And that's the way I saw it. Was this victim mentality? I'm like, no.
But it also artistically challenges the status quo.
Yes. And so to end my story, first of all, I talked to my mentor about it, and he was like, that's not really what it's about. That's not really what it's about. But when I went to my first conference and I met people like Laura and Marilyn Bird and people that were talking about this stuff, and that's when it resonated with me, challenging the status quo. And I'm like, I can get on board with that. I can get on board with exposing assumptions. I can get on board with working towards social justice and social equity, now that I see it in a different light. What's funny is that conference, I followed all the critical researchers around the whole time. I became like when I got back to school, my mentor was like, you're like a whole critical researcher groupie now. I'm like, I know, they were great. Like, and that's who I hang with now, funny enough, is the critical researchers. But originally, I was like,
I have a question about the critical researchers
and
your evolution.
Yeah.
Did you
like people I think would consider me relatively critical now. So
yeah?
like in the field, yeah.
I mean, critical, I don't really have a problem with critical, but I guess, does it appear that it kind of devalues certain groups? Because if you're looking at a status quo, that status quo is on that sample, and again, my status quo is different than your status quo, and like you said, context bound. Look, I'm worried about mine.
Mm-hmm.
Although it may be true for others, does it kind of, how do you separate that?
So that it's not selfish intent. That you mean like I really want to help this group of people, that kind of thing?
Can I give an example?
Yes. A lot of sarcastic responses just came through my head, but I simply said yes. Go ahead.
I'm very positivist with you. All right, so Black Lives Matter.
They do.
Yeah, they do. But to hear that, some people take the stance of all lives matter, right? Cops' lives matter, blue lives matter. These are all true. So from the critical, I'm emancipatory, I'm problematizing, I'm context bound, because right now the focus should be on this because these are the impacted individuals. But whoa, you devalue it. To a certain extent, you could take it away from the overall picture that, hey, look.
And so I don't believe you devalue. Yeah. I don't believe that you devalue others by focusing your efforts here at this moment. So what you just said reminded me of the whole Kobe Bryant thing, when people are like, but veterans died yesterday too, but
Right.
And it's like, well, just because I am emotionally affected by this doesn't mean I can't be emotionally affected by this too. Like it doesn't, to me, necessarily take away from the efforts of other groups. I have a problem with watering down efforts, whatever, right? So I would have a problem if you said, well, let's just all bring it together. Black lives, blue lives, women's lives, all of that, let's just say they all matter. I have a problem with that.
No gender
generalization.
Generalizability.
Yeah. So as a critical researcher, would have a problem with that.
Understand.
Because it's about this group right here. Yeah.
So it seems like the critical and the positivists are the extreme. Like not extreme, but they're almost very opposites.
Interesting
Right?
you say that.
And then interpretive seems to me like a balance of the two. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Thank you for your speculation. I tend to think of these two as opposite ends of the spectrum. And critical, in my opinion, can borrow from either. Because I might be a critical researcher who views things positivistically.
A critical researcher.
Meaning I want social change, I want to change the status quo. But there's one answer, one way to do that. Which makes me positivistic.
Okay. Can you say that one more time, please?
Probably not, but I will try. I'm a critical researcher. I want to change the status quo. I want to expose assumptions about what we're doing here. I want to, what's the word? I want to be a catalyst for social justice, social change, right?
Okay.
But there is one way to do it. This is the path we must take. Which would make me positivist. Okay. I want to affect social change. I want equality. I want to be a catalyst for change. But I think we can do it different ways depending on what environment we're working in, which makes me a little bit more interpretive. So I think, in my opinion, critical can borrow from positivist and interpretive, but to me, the opposite ends, if there were a spectrum, would be, the polar opposites would be interpretive versus positivist. What y'all think? Brain explode yet? Maybe just a little bit. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, let us sit with you.
I think the reason why I'm
Hard. Yeah, what?
sorry, I didn't know you guys were talking.
Sorry, we were just,
Sorry.
Talking really low. So.
we were having, give me just a moment. Was that from the Cosby Show? I'm taking it all in stride. Yes, the bird! Yes! God! Okay. Taking it all in stride. Yes, okay.
I think I lost what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm so sorry, because that wasn't even necessary. Tell me.
It's okay. I guess the reason why I'm having it's taking me a while to comprehend what you just said because it's positivist is like it's very like one way. It's like this is the truth and this is the truth.
It's the way.
Right, but interpretive is more like there's many solutions to your problems, essentially.
There's many solutions. The problem can be interpreted different ways.
There's many problems and many solutions. So that to me seems like two different things.
Yes, agreed.
Oh, never mind. I just rationalized. Never mind. Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.